So good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. I hope you had a very gentle transition and landed softly in 2022. I'm going to share a practice this morning. It's not going to be technical. I'm not going to be explaining a million things. So the invitation really is for those of you who want to practice along, but very much in your own way. So everything is invitational. Maybe you want to do more of something, or you want to do less of something, or turn the opposite direction. Listen to your body. That's the invitation. My intention is really to move the body, to wake it up for the day, for the new year, to shake off some of the stiffness that has accumulated over the Christmas period, to get things moving and flowing, feeling a little bit more filled with a bit more vitality, really. So you can do that in so many different ways, and so that's an invitation. I'm just sharing a practice that I would enjoy. For that, I haven't planned it in a great amount of detail. You're invited to practice along, and as I said, very much also in your own way, whatever feels really good for your body right now. This is typically a time of setting intentions, New Year's resolutions. For me, kind of like, it's almost like the baseline that we need to take care of the body, that the body feels like it does have that vitality, that we have enough energy, enough drive, that we feel well enough, that we feel healthy, that we feel light enough, that we feel kind of mobile enough and able to move forward, in order to manifest any of those New Year's resolutions and intentions. So kind of baseline New Year's resolution for me is always to really look after the body and to listen to it. And I think especially around the current times, that's become more and more important. So that's the invitation. Get on the mat, move your body, rest, release, breathe, all in your own way, or you follow me. So we're going to start lying down, which is usually how I start my practice. And actually, before I kind of come to lie still, I really love having a little bit of a roll around. Those of you who practice with me quite regularly already know that I like a bit of rolling. So this is freestyle. You can twist and turn or stretch, but it also means you could keep it smaller, more contained, some rocking here, massaging the back. Maybe a couple of deeper breaths. Come quite spontaneously here. Feel free, go ahead. Oh, yawn even. Oh, there was a little bit of a crack in my spine. Nice. And then eventually we can bring this back together more into the center and placing the feet down to the floor. Move your feet around a little bit so you find that comfortable position for the feet. And then find somewhere comfortable for your arms to rest. That could be by your side or hands on your body. Whatever feels good here. If you want to close your eyes, go ahead, or leave them open. Or take 2 or 3 breaths here to arrive and tune into that slightly quieter place. At any time throughout the practice, these deeper breaths are very welcome. Even if I don't prompt them, go ahead. Sometimes they even arise spontaneously, so then definitely let them come and leave. Sometimes also quite nice to actually do these big breaths more actively. It's a way of integrating or letting something go, or softening into a pose, wherever it might be useful. Let's float the arms gently over the head and ever so slightly roll over to one side so that the opposite shoulder floats off the floor and gets really light, and you might even kind of sort of wave it around a little bit. So it almost feels like there is just nothing in that shoulder. And then I can let that settle very gently back down on the floor. And then over to the other side. I'm simply rolling, pushing off with that foot a little bit until that shoulder comes off the floor. Moving that around a little bit, very watery. And then letting that settle back down. We can repeat once more on each side. Trying to free up those shoulders a little bit maybe. Or even noticing what's going on in those shoulders here today. So with these gooey and soft shoulders as they come to settle, let's see if we can release the arms over the head behind us to the floor. And it could be that they come more or less parallel. In that case, maybe come and rest on the index finger and thumb side of the hands, so the palms are more or less facing each other. Maybe you want to take the arms further out to the sides into a V shape, or all the way out to the side, wherever that feels most comfortable for your shoulders. Notice how with the arms further out or up, that might affect slightly our breathing. We're going to start with a pelvic tilt here, sending the pelvis away from us, arching the lower back a bit more, and then drawing the pelvis up towards the face, and the lower back almost pushes into the ground. And then sending the pelvis away. You might notice because your arms are over your head that movement feels ever so slightly restricted. That's all fine. Keep going, slow, gentle movement, exploring the edges of the movement. So see how far the pelvis might be able to tilt one way or the other. And then with this one, I do actually quite enjoy synchronizing my breath and using the breath to support the movement here. The way I would synchronize that is inhale, sending the pelvis away from me, arching in the lower back, and then exhaling, drawing the pelvis towards my face, and the lower back drops down. Inhaling, sending the pelvis away, arching. Exhaling the other way. Feel free to play with that, or maybe you want to synchronize it the other way, or you want to carry on breathing in your own time. That's all good. I'm going to do a handful more rounds here. I'm going to take even deeper, almost puffier breaths here, breathing a bit further up into the chest. I find that kind of wakes me up a little bit more. It's a bit more activating. And it sends the movement a little bit further up through the spine as well. I'm going to do 2 more of these. And then settle, find your own neutral, take a couple of breaths here. Let's bring the arms up and then into a more comfortable position for a moment. Noticing what that feels like. So I feel drawn going here into the hips a little bit. So I'm going to bring one knee into the chest. I'm going to go with the right knee. That makes things a bit easier to talk it through. Right knee comes into the chest. And I'm sending my left leg slowly away along the floor. Ooh, noticing that elongation, a slight stretch here, and then floating that leg up towards the ceiling. I'm going to start circling through the foot here, really big circles. 4, 5 each way. So I'm changing direction now, and the other way. And then from here, let's really send the heel of the foot away. I'm drawing the toes more towards me, activating a little bit more through that leg, and then elongating, really lengthening away through the heel, lowering that leg all the way very slowly down to the floor, sending the heel away. I'm keeping the foot quite active, the toes up towards the ceiling. So I'm not letting the leg roll out, as really sort of propped up with the foot here, taking a deeper breath. And then with the exhale, drawing that knee, that right knee into towards the shoulder a little bit more. Good. And then releasing that foot, drawing the leg up to bend the knee and changing over. So I'm holding onto the left knee and sending the right leg very gently away along the floor, just for that initial opening here through the front of the pelvis and the leg, the thigh, and then scooping that leg up towards the ceiling and big slow circles with the foot. 4, 5 in each direction, so changing, going the other way around. And then sending the heel really far away, activating through that whole leg. The foot is really active and open, sole of the foot is open. And then lengthening that knee, not the knee, the heel, away, 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 really long, slowly sending that down towards the floor until it reaches the foot. Stays propped up, toes pointing up towards the ceiling, so I'm not letting that leg roll out in this one. And then with the exhale, drawing the left knee in towards the chest a little bit more. Good. And scooping both legs in, crossing the ankles over here for a moment, letting the knees come wide, one hand on each knee, and having a little bit of a rock from side to side. Or sometimes also nice to circle the legs, whatever comes quite naturally here. Bit of movement. So from here, coming back to the center and gently and slowly letting the feet come back down to the floor, letting them find again that position where they can support the legs, where it feels most comfortable. Let's bring the arms up and interlocking the fingers here, taking the hands behind the head. So lift the head up for a moment, take the hands behind the head, and then place it back down. So for the first one, I'm going to let my elbows fall out to the sides, but my wrists are ever so slightly coming up here to really cup the hands around the back of the skull. So I'm kind of cradling the head here and supporting it. And then with open eyes open, I'm taking my eyes over to the right side, looking out of the right corners of my eyes without moving the head though. So the head stays still, tip of the nose up towards the ceiling. This can feel quite strong. If you don't like it, do just come out of it or go in and out, take breaks to stay around about for half a minute or so. Make sure the breathing stays calm and quiet here throughout, that the body's not contracting for some reason. Let's stay for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing the eyes, looking back up towards the ceiling. Look around a little bit maybe. Maybe taking a deeper breath here. There's a little break. And then let's take the eyes over to the other side. And again, feel free to go in and out with this one or to skip this one. You can feel quite intense with the eyes. I'm checking in that my breathing is staying really calm, that I'm not contracting somewhere in the body. Really only focusing on those eyes, looking over to the left And staying for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing the eyes. Let's look around the room a little bit. Take a conscious deeper breath. Okay, whilst we've got our hands here, let's have a really strong interlock with those fingers. Lift the elbows up towards the ceiling, letting the shoulders drop away from you. And then we lift the head up with our strong hands without hunching up the shoulders. They stay as relaxed as possible here. And as we come up, normally we engage our abdominals, of course, but let's see if we can relax them a little bit here. So consciously try and soften the belly and allow the shoulders to soften and drop away from the ears. The head is heavy, but you've got strong hands. They can carry that head. My tip here would be to walk yourself a little bit up onto the edges of the scapula so you can rest a bit more through your bones. I'm going to try and keep that head really passive here and take maybe 2 or 3 deeper breaths. And in slow motion, let's let the head come down. Take your time. And then you can release the arms. Have the arms come and rest somewhere. Take a moment and notice what that feels like, especially in that upper back and shoulder area. Good. A couple of twisting motions. First, we'll start here with the shoulder girdle. For that, let's bring the arms up and give ourselves a loose hug. So arms come to maybe the upper arm here, and I'm resting my elbows down into the body. And my pelvis wants to stay really still for this one. I'm only moving the shoulders. So we lift one shoulder off the floor to turn the shoulder girdle the opposite direction. It might only be a small movement here. See if you can keep that pelvis really steady and flat on the floor. And then coming back to the center and over to the other side. Go ahead and do this in your own time. I like going really quite slow so I can explore how far the movement might go. You might prefer to sort of swing from side to side a little bit more. I don't know, swing might be a little bit exaggerated, but so feel free to find your own pace with this. But really try and keep the legs and the pelvis still. They don't move. It's only the upper body, the shoulder girdle, that turns and the head follows. Let's go one more each side. And then slowly coming back to the center, releasing the arms, somewhere comfortable. Take a moment, take a breath. And then definitely feel like doing a bit of a twisty thing, the lower half. So maybe you feel like doing the, what do they call it, windscreen wipers, and move from left to right, rolling over the edges of the feet. That can be really nice. Or maybe you want to stay and take a couple of breaths on each side. Another version of a twist that I really enjoy is pushing more down through a flat foot and then letting that leg, the opposite leg, come and rest out. But by pushing down through that flat foot of the foot, that is what brings that pelvis up and come into this big arch through the side of the body here. Taking a couple of deeper breaths here before then repeating on the other side. So whatever twist you really enjoy, go ahead. So if you're working more statically, then maybe think about changing sides now. And we can slowly bring that back into the center. Take your time with that. We'll take the knees up into the chest, crossing the ankles over, one hand on each knee. And doing a little bit of a rock here, so you can join when you're ready. We'll meet here. And then as and when you're ready, from here, allow the body to decide which way you might want to roll all the way, to the left or to the right. And roll all the way onto your side and stay there for at least 2 or 3 breaths, allowing the fluids to settle, the body to adjust. Taking a more conscious, deeper breath there can feel really nice. And slowly we make our way up, finding your own way, and then we can come round onto all fours from here. Take your time. So once we arrive on all fours, let's actually do a little bit of freestyle movement here. So it could be a couple of cat-cows. It could be with a bit of a circular movement, whatever the body might need here. It's also a bit of a way of exploring what the back has to say to you this morning. And involve moving the whole body around, the knees and the hands as well. Like I said, I actually really want to bring a little bit of movement and vitality into my body, but without pushing or pulling or forcing anything, in a gentle way. And let's come down onto our forearms. And for ease, you can have the palms more facing each other. And let's move the whole body forwards and back through space quite slowly. You can keep it a very small movement, or you can go all the way towards the heels and forwards. However you want to move here. And so my knees have already decided to go a little bit wider apart. And so this is my body negotiating its way all the way into a child pose. So as and when you're ready, begin to settle back. There might be a little bit of side to side movement here as well. That can feel nice. And then find somewhere meaningful for your head to rest. And that could be that you make a pillow with your hands, or a towel with your hands, or the head rests on the floor, wherever it's good here for you. In your first child pose, we come to, usually body goes a bit like, don't know. So supporting the head can bring a little bit more ease into the whole thing. And stay for maybe a handful of breaths here. Giving the body down into the ground. Noticing how gravity is now moving. Well, gravity is still moving the same direction, but our perspective on that has changed. It's now dropping down in front of us. With every exhale, giving the body down into the ground a bit more. And then let's push gently down through the shins and the knees to bring the body up when we come back onto all fours. And I'm just coming a little bit more to the front of my mat, so as I put one foot back onto the ball of the foot, it's still on the mat, and then I'm circling my whole body around to create this movement through my ankle, circling around and pivoting around the hands as well at the same time. And change direction. Good. And let's change over. Bring the knee back, other side. And it's quite dynamic the way I'm moving, circling around, pivoting over the hands, creating big movement through the ankle. Both ways. Good. And then bringing the knees back to the floor. I've got my hands a little bit further out in front here, so my arms are more at a diagonal angle. And then I notice how that makes things a little bit easier in the shoulders. Slowly shifting my torso, my shoulders over my hands, but trying to keep that same ease in the shoulders, even though I've now got more weight. I need a little bit more strength, and then back again. So just moving forwards and back a couple of times here to check in with my shoulders, to keep them quiet as I bring my weight over the hands. And on this next one, as I come forwards, I'm going to round a little bit through my back body, looking down at the pelvis to bring the pelvis forwards and through into a back bend, uncurling through the spine, and the heart's coming through and the head is coming up last. And then slowly drawing back and sitting back into a child pose. And this one I'm keeping extended with my arms long and walking the hands a little bit out. So I've sort of got half my hand on the floor actually rather than the mat. And feel free to take them even wider if you want. Picking up one hand and the whole torso, in fact, to place it across on top of the other one. And I'm really trying to get hand on hand, not the wrist or the thumb, hand on hand. And then from there, settling back towards the heels again, releasing the sit bones away. I'm trying to find somewhere for my head to rest. And that's giving me a nice elongation and lengthening through the side body here. And I'm focusing there with my breath. Sort of imagining you could breathe into that open side of the body. And slowly square up, bringing the hand back to its own side. Maybe taking a breath in the middle, transition. And then we pick up the other hand, placing it across, hand on top of hand if you can. Allowing the sit bones to settle back towards the heels, really slowly and gently, to lengthen away from those hands and feel that opening through the side body. I imagine I could breathe into it, focusing there with my breath. Let's square up slowly. Taking a breath here. And let's bring the hands back onto the mat, still active. Let's take a breath as a preparation here. And then we push down through the knees to come up onto all fours and round through the back, looking down at the pelvis, and then slowly guiding the pelvis forwards and through to uncurve through the back, coming into that back bend again, the heart space coming through and the head coming up last. And then we draw back through the middle, letting the head drop, coming back into a round shape here. And then from here, from that round shape, I let the pelvis tilt away, sending the sit bones away. So there is this lengthening again, all the way back towards the heels. And so let's repeat that sequence here a few times. And if you want, you can synchronize your breath. I would do it like this, inhaling to come up into a round shape. Exhale, bringing the pelvis forwards and through into that back bend. Inhaling to come back into a round shape onto all fours. And exhale, then lengthening away back into that extended child pose. But feel free to move with your own breath, to breathe in a different way, to add extra breath as you wish. Find your own rhythm, your own pace. Let's go for 2 more rounds. And eventually we'll all meet in a child pose again. As and when you get there, soften your arms. You can bend them, bring them closer. So the shoulders can soften here. Again, maybe you want to make a pillow for your head with your hands. And we'll take 3 or 4 breaths here in child pose. And pushing down through the knees and the shins to bring us up. And this time, actually come up to kneeling. So I'm bringing my legs a little bit more together here. And some of us love kneeling like this. Some of us will hate it. Let's see if we can kneel like this for Maybe just 2 or 3 breaths, noticing. I quite like rolling over those feet here to, it's kind of almost like massaging the ankles in this position. I feel quite nice. And then I quite like waking up the feet a little bit more, so I'm going to come onto all fours. So I can lift my sit bones up and tuck the toes under and let the sit bones settle back towards the toes. So that opens a little bit the soles of the feet. And then coming back forwards again. And then I quite like tucking the toes the other way and coming back onto my knuckles of the toes here. And coming back forwards again, tucking under. Going forwards and tucking the other way again. So I'm going to repeat that 2 or 3 times. And then from here, tucking toes under, I push myself all the way back onto my haunches. I'm just going to turn here so you can see a little bit more. Got my feet relatively wide apart so that I can get one heel completely down. As I turn away from it, as in I'm moving my body kind of off that foot a little bit, I'm completely on this foot now. And then I can pivot the other direction. Of course, we can do that with hands on the floor as well for balance, or resting the forearms here on the legs, moving from left to right. So feet really got to do a bit of work here. Couple more times. Good. And then from here, coming into your own relaxed as possible version of a forward fold. So I'm pushing down through the balls of the feet, keeping my feet relatively wide here. My knees quite soft. I just want to turn myself upside down here for a couple of breaths. Definitely keeping my knees slightly bent here, as I feel a little bit that stiffness in my legs this morning. So that's all good. I just really want to allow my back to round and to release rather than forcing or pushing anything. One more breath here. Good. And then slowly come back down, come back onto all fours, and let's do possibly the first downward facing dog of 2022. Many more to come. Go ahead and do your own favorite version of downward facing dog as you enjoy it the most in whichever way. So those of you who know me, I like taking a shorter stance and going more backwards to keep the shoulders at ease. As you come up, feel free to move in your downward dog as well a little bit if that feels like a good thing to do, or keep your knees quite bent, whatever it is. Freestyle downward facing dog. Make it your own. And then let's come back down, knees to the floor, and we sit back onto our heels again to transition into what I call the runner stance. So I'm bringing one foot in front, the other knee is more or less next to it. I'm just going to turn that into the diagonal so you can see. it's more or less a couple of fists between, so it kind of means they are quite parallel. And the back toes are tucked under. And then I'm coming with my shoulder here to rest over that thigh. If that doesn't feel very comfortable, you can also place like a cushion here, so you bridge the gap. That might be nicer. The aim is to really allow this to round the back and to let the head hang, really quite passive here, and then give the weight down into that front foot, opening the back leg. And then as we unfold into this forward fold, that front leg actually stays bent and you stay in contact shoulder to leg. So you stay resting over that thigh, the head dropping down. You're really letting the whole torso round over that leg. And then bending the knees again, coming back down. That back leg may or may not completely straighten. That doesn't really matter. Let's go in and out of that 2 or 3 times. Give the weight down through the front leg into a forward fold, but stay rested over that thigh. Don't lose that contact. And see if you can really try and keep the head dropping down. There's no lifting of the head here. Let's go up once more. And then from here, you can bend a little bit more through your front leg if you want. You don't even need to lift your head up because you know you're on your mat. You just walk your hands forwards a little bit, a small step. But it's probably far enough for us to step back with that front foot into a downward facing dog from here. And let's take one extra breath here. Good. And then we bend the knees, bringing them down to the floor, and we can change over with our runner stance. So other foot comes out in front, back toes tucked under. I'm sitting back onto the heels. That's my starting position. My starting position is not out in front. It's right back here. I'm resting my shoulder over that leg here, letting the head drop, the whole back round. Give the weight down into that front foot and open the back leg, which may or may not straighten completely. The key thing is here that we maintain the contact between the front leg and the torso. And then we come back down again. Keeping the head dropping down. There's no lifting of the head required here. Let's repeat 2 or 3 times. Maybe you find with the release of the breath it's easier to come up. Let's go one more time. And then again, we walk the hands forwards on the mat. Trust that you know where you're going. And we step back into a downward facing dog again. And we bend the knees and come back down, pointing the toes away. Let's sit back onto the heels for a moment, checking in, taking a moment how that all feels in the body. Good. So, yeah, my intention was to move a little bit today. So I feel like I want to come up into a couple of standing poses. I'm going to start though from my runner stance. So I'm bringing my other foot back in front again. Resting over that leg. Letting the head hang. Giving the weight down through the front leg to open into that forward fold. But then from here, let's push ourselves back a little bit so we distribute the weight over both our feet. So that means you push in your front foot with your front foot so you come back into both your feet a bit more equally. And then let's engage down through both those feet and send those legs away, lengthening the legs, straightening the legs. That will float your torso up. So let your torso come way up, maybe somewhere to parallel or even higher up. That's all good. Lengthen those legs. So those legs are going really strong down into the ground. Let's rest the front hand somewhere on the leg, other hand on the small of the back. And we get a bit more length through the torso, active through the feet, and then we rotate to the open side, here through the middle with a release of the breath. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 breaths to come into full rotation here, and see if your shoulder's happy to float that top arm up. Go ahead, but maybe resting it on the small of the back is a better option. And then from here, I'm going to de-rotate, bend that front knee. I'm swinging my arms through, so down to the floor, forwards and up. Front knee stays bent, which brings me up into a very graceful small warrior one. So with a short stance, I can really rest into both my feet, which means I can soften the shoulders and express a very small back bend here, particularly through the upper spine. One more deep breath. And maybe with the release of the breath, let's drape the body back over that front bent leg. Letting the torso come and rest back over that front thigh. And then we can walk the hands forwards and step back into a down dog. Extra breath here. Now bend the knees, bringing them back down, sitting back onto the heels for a little integration breath between the two sides. And let's try the other side. So other foot comes in front, tucking the back toes under, sitting back, resting, shoulder over that front leg. Head drops down, really round through the back body. With a release of the breath maybe. Dropping the weight into that front foot to open into the forward fold. From here, adjusting, push through the front foot to send your whole body a little bit back through space, distributing your weight into both feet more equally. And then let's engage into both feet, really sending those legs away, lengthening through the legs. I want them to be about 3 meters long. Super strong base here, very active foundation, very stable. And then front hand on the front leg, other hand on the small of the back. See if you can maybe get a little bit more length through the spine, from the feet up to the sit bones, and then through to the crown of the head. And then with the release of the breath, through the middle we turn. It's a rotation here. So one shoulder drops, the other shoulder floats. Take your time. And if you wanted to, you could float the top arm up towards the ceiling for a breath. And then we de-rotate, bend the front knee, swing your arms down, forward, and then through to come up. Front knee stays bent, so we're coming into this small but very graceful warrior one. Resting down into those feet, softening the shoulders, soften behind the heart for that slight expression of a back bend here. With the release of the next breath, we drape the body back over the front leg, all the way down. Walking the hands forwards along the mat, step back into the last downward facing dog here. And we bring the knees down and sit back onto our heels once more for a breath or two. Okay, so really really quite fancy a quick pigeon and not very technical or complicated one. So I'm bringing one leg in front, quite a sort of closed knee here, very close knee. So the other foot is just underneath the other groin or thereabouts. And then coming onto simply my forearms to allow the lower back to round out here. I'm not going to stay for too long. Taking 3 or 4 breaths to focus here on that lower back and letting that release and open into this round shape. And so, back foot, activate. I'm literally picking it up, spreading my toes, lengthening through the whole top of the foot to begin to lengthen up through the whole leg. I'm activating that leg, pushing up through the jaw, the groin, letting the groin open and lengthen, and then really beginning to elongate through the front body. That is what's lifting me up, the front body, elongating through. Of course, I use my hands here to come into a back bend. Good. And releasing that. Well done. So from here, feel free to change in any any way you like, and bringing the other leg round. So once more, I've got the knee really quite closed. That foot is long underneath the other side of the pelvis here, and I'm coming only onto my forearms. You can stay on your hands as well. So it's not about dropping all the way down. So my aim here is for this rounding out of the lower back to settle and to quieten down. So we'll take 4 or 5 breaths for that. Then back foot, picking it up, activating it, spreading the toes, really lengthening through the top of the foot, engaging into the ground, lengthening up through the whole leg, begin to lengthen through the groin, and that's sending me up and really thinking about elongating through the front body. That's bringing me up here, of course, also with the hands supporting me. But it's that front body elongation that's taking me into a back bend. Good. And then we release. And we can come and sit cross-legged, or choose any other position here. I want to come into a cross-legged forward fold, but of course you could also have your legs out straight or wide, or do maybe again 5 or so breaths here. So rounding out through the back body, letting the head drop, coming into quite a part here, resting maybe through the fingertips. I've got my arms resting on my legs. This could be just the perfect spot to hang out. Maybe you want to come a little bit further forwards. So you really find your own forward fold. Do a forward fold that you enjoy the most. So I'm going to come here onto my forearms. See if you can find the comfort in your forward fold. No push, no pull. And then bring your attention to your breathing. And that's it, keeping it as simple as you can. And slowly find your way out of this forward fold. Really take your time. And find a comfortable seated position for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. So feel free to change to sit on a chair or lean back against something. Sit on a cushion, on a block. Whatever you prefer here. We finish with a little bit of breathing. So the way we're going to breathe is actually normally, so there's no manipulation of the breath. We're adding a little bit of imagination. We're going to imagine that we could inhale and send the breath down the spine, down the middle, down the spine, into the pelvic bowl, towards the earth. And that on the exhale, we could then release that breath out to the sides, across the full width of the shoulders and away from us. So we imagine we inhale down our vertical axis and exhale out and across our horizontal axis. It's kind of almost a widening across the shoulders here. Feel free to close your eyes or leave them open and have a little go breathing normally, but with that focus. Maybe you visualize it. Maybe the breath has a color and you sort of follow it, or you feel the movement of the air in this way, or you visualize more of the anatomical structure that you're breathing along, whatever it is, to make it really as tangible as you can. We'll breathe like this for 2 minutes. Inhaling, breathing down the spine towards the earth. Exhale out to the sides, across the full width of the shoulders. Inhale along your vertical axis. Exhale, horizontal axis. Maybe you enjoy finishing your practice here. Maybe you want to stay and sit for a little bit longer. I often do that. Sit for, I don't know, 5, 10, however long, many minutes. Maybe you really would love a good Shavasana now, so feel free to lie down, any position that you like, get all of your blankets and cushions to get really comfortable, to complete your practice in your own time, in your own preferred way. I'm going to leave you to it. I'm just going to come a little bit closer here to say hello and goodbye, wishing you only the best for this coming year. It doesn't feel like we're in a particularly easy time right now, and then things are going to continue a little bit more challenging still, but I'm wishing you all the health and well-being in your own being, that you can move through these challenges with as much ease as possible. So go ahead and find your own way to complete the practice here, sitting or lying down. Take your time. Wishing you all the best, and hope to see you all very soon, online or in person, even better. Thank you so much, everyone who joined me here. Take care.